The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back, in case you're wondering, with George Case the Third. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. We have a terrific panel to talk to George. David Hubler is here.
Hello.
Hi, David.
Hi, David.
Ronnie Rabinovitz.
Hi, Ron. Hi, how are you, Ralph?
Good.
Hey, George.
I can't complain about anything. We are expecting Ronnie's grandson, a baseball player, and I'll let Ronnie tell the story of his recent success in amateur ball.
Well, Siggy, his name is Siggy Rabinovitz. We call him Siggy. And he's 10 years old, and he's really a terrific ball player. He's in a traveling team. The team had a terrific season. They ended up second in the state in their division, and they had a record of 39 wins and 6 losses. So they had a heck of a great season. He really loves it. He's a catcher sometimes. He pitches sometimes. Shortstop, center field. You know, they move him around. But
right.
He just loves it. Yeah. I don't know where he is, but yeah. I might go off of here for a minute and see if I can get a hold of him. Okay. I'll come back. Thanks.
George, let's talk about something that's near and dear to your heart. There was a PBS documentary aired this past week on Theodore Samuel Williams, and you have a connect with him. He and your dad played in the same era, and they knew each other well, and you had a story that you shared with us on these airwaves long ago about running into Ted as an adult and him remembering you. Can you share that again?
Yeah, I would like to, talk about that for a minute, Ralph. It was a time that happened back in, I think it was the 1970s. It was a sporting goods show in Chicago. Ted had a big contract with Sears for all their outdoor equipment, and I was working in the athletic footwear business at the time. And Ted was in McCormick Place to do an appearance for Sears, and had just happened to walk by our booth at the sporting goods show, and I took upon myself to just step outside for a minute of the booth and said, "Ted, excuse me, I'm George Case's son. I just wanted to say hello." And he stopped and he said, "God damn," he said, "I haven't seen you since you were a little kid." He said, "How's your old man?" And we really had a nice conversation. And after Ted left, I went back in our booth, and all my colleagues said, "How in the world do you know Ted Williams?" And I said, "Well, it just was a chance circumstance that I saw him, but Ted and my dad were, good friends, played against one another, and I just wanted to say hello to Ted, and that was his response. So it was really an interesting time for me, and I enjoyed seeing Ted after so many years.
Okay, George, was there anything in the documentary that was new to you, that was enlightening to you? Is there anything that was portrayed in a way that you wouldn't have agreed portraying it that way?
Well, I'll tell you what it was, Ralph. As far as I'm concerned, I read the book The Kid, which was written by Ben Bradley Jr., and basically that PBS documentary, Ben Bradley was featured a lot on it, and some people have said there was a lot of fiction in there. Other people say that Bradley really researched it. There were parts of it that I didn't think belonged in there. It opened, with all the stuff about, the cryogenics and the dispute that went on between, Ted's 2 children, which was a difficult thing. And as it turned out, John Henry, who was Ted's son, passed away, and he and Claudia, Ted's daughter, really got into quite a legal battle with regard to Ted's will and his last wishes. So, that part of it in the story, The Kid, was really not brought out in the documentary. I'm sort of glad it wasn't. My recollection of Ted is of being a ball player, being a great athlete, being a fisherman, just being a war hero. And, the fact is that he was a very complex individual, no question about it. But in my opinion, he was the greatest hitter who ever lived, or at least who ever played since 1941, since nobody has ever hit 406 since that time, and that was, 77 years ago. So, my recollection of Ted Williams is really as a player, as a person. He was obstinate. He was profane. He was very difficult to get along with, but he was a man's man. He did what he did, and he didn't really care about anybody else. He wanted to, do his thing his way.
He was a terrific player. Hey, I think we have Siggy on the line. Do we, Sig?
Hi.
Sig, are
Would
you there?
you
Hi,
identify yourself, please? Sign in, please.
Yes. This is my grandson, Siggy Rabinovitz. Siggy, how are you?
Hey, Sig. Nice
Good,
to
how are
meet
you?
you.
Nice to meet
This is
you.
Ralph
We're
Tycho.
great here. All of us are great. We have a panel of folks who are interested in meeting you for the first time. Congratulations on your team's success.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your team, Siggy.
We went like 41-5 all season. And,
Yeah, you.
And we lost in the state championship to STMA.
Okay.
That's another team that's a very good team, and they did very well.
At the state championship, there's no disgrace in losing whatsoever. And even if you
Right.
don't make it to the state championship, there's no disgrace in losing. It's competing that's the thing. And congratulations.
You had a terrific year.
Yeah.
How's everything in California?
Your grandfather says that you play a bunch of different positions. Which is your favorite?
Probably catcher.
Okay. And why is that?
Because you're in every play.
Okay. Nice. And sounds to me like you're the kind of kid that wants to be a part of it.
Mhm.
That's nice.
He sure is.
That's nice. I got to ask you whether or not, and I'm sure you're aware of your granddad's friendship with the late Jackie Robinson and what he meant to baseball. And I'm sure you're aware of the importance of your grandfather carrying on the legacy of Jackie. And I hope you're proud of him for that. And because I know we are at Comfortably Zoned.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
I remember one time there was a playoff that Siggy wore number 42. I was so thrilled. He picked the number.
Yeah, he's
Right,
been
Sig?
telling us all year how well you're doing. And
Yeah.
there are times he has to beg out to go see you. He's so proud. See?
I am. Yeah, you've done great. Are you in LA now?
Thank you. Yeah, we're in
What
LA.
are you doing in L.A.? Is Hollywood getting to you, Siggy? A few little success in baseball, and all of a sudden you're off to L.A.?
Are you going to go see the Dodgers?
I don't know. I think if we went, we'd go Monday, but I don't think we're gonna go. I don't know.
You should go.
Machado's opener in LA is Monday.
Monday, yeah. Yeah, he hasn't been home. He hasn't been in the home game yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to be playing the Milwaukee Brewers in LA. Siggy was very excited when they got Machado.
Who was?
You were.
Yeah.
Tell him about your experience with Puig.
Oh, so we were in, I think it was Atlanta for the playoffs, and we we were swimming at the pool, and all of a sudden, big bodyguard and a bunch of huge guys walk in. And I think it was Kenley Jensen, who was it, JP Howell? I think JP Howell and then Puig. And they were swimming in the pool, and I said hi and we talked for a minute. But at the time he knew no English. So that was in I think June of 2000, maybe 15 or 16, when he just came up and I think he had 14 or something home runs in that, 2-month span, and he was batting 400. And I played catch with him in the pool for probably about an hour, and he was really nice. And then we were in Colorado. It was Rockies Dodgers, and we see Puig again in the lobby, and we said hi. And I don't know if he really remembered me at first, but we were playing catch with a green football, and me and my dad were talking, and he knew a little bit more English, but not much. And we talked, and my dad he kept trying to say green football, he knew no English, so he didn't really understand us. But I think he a little bit remembered me. And then we saw him again in Colorado, and yeah, that was about it.
Yeah, he was a lot of friendly with you. Yeah, and you were friends with Andre Ethier too, weren't you?
Well, I think my mom and dad were, I don't know how, but they were walking with his mom, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They love to go, my son and my grandson love to go follow the Dodgers. And when they go to those hotels where they stay where the Dodgers stay. So they're having a lot of fun.
That is what a great way to spend the summer, just following them all around the country.
But I have to tell you, the one thing, I remember it was a playoff game, and there were two buses, right? And half the guys got on the early bus, and half the guys got on the late bus. And the guys that cared no much for the team, Zach Greinke, Matt Kemp, I think it was Adrian Gonzalez. I don't remember everyone, but the one that really stood out to me was Zach Greinke. And the two buses went, so you're supposed to either get on the early or the late bus, right? So he gets in a cab and goes to the stadium by himself. And I know that year they were the team to beat. They finished first in the NL, and they were playing, who was it? I don't know. Maybe it was St. Louis to go to the playoffs, or to go to the World Series. With Hanley Ramirez they had Greinke, they had everyone. And it noticed me that every guy went somewhere else. One guy would go in a cab, one guy would go in an Uber, one guy would go on the bus. They didn't go together. So they might have had the best team, but they had no chemistry.
You're right. See?
Siggy,
you observed that.
We have a future podcaster on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network who absolutely is. You are so articulate and. May I ask how old you are, Siggy? I hope you don't say 36.
I'm almost 11.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. You are very, very special. I know where you get it, but and I'm not surprised, but I'm very impressed. Let me put it to you that way. David Hubler, anything you'd like to ask Siggy?
Can't think of a thing. He covered a great deal of ground. Yeah, he did.
Okay. Me meet George Case then, David, or Ziggy.
Hi, George.
Hey, how we doing? You know what? I enjoyed listening to Siggy. I really did, and it brought back so many memories for me. That's when I really started to play baseball when I was 10 or 11, and you know, I had some wonderful experiences. I was never as conversant about the players the way he is. He just really knows his stuff, and it dawned on me when I was listening to him, Ronnie, his story sounds so much like your first meeting with Jackie Robinson.
Right, it does with Puig. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's very, and they remember him. How many autographs have you gotten from everybody, Siggy?
I think I have 96 baseballs, and I think like 60 of them are signed.
Wow, unbelievable.
And you can verify their authenticity. George Case can tell you something about the memorabilia industry, how there's a lot of forgeries and a lot of stuff. So keep good records.
Well, I think it's wonderful that he's able to get those autographs in person, because you know, and you keep those. You know, don't let them get away from you, because they'll be you know, something that you'll remember for a long time, and the value will certainly increase, and people will want to see those autographs. So you keep those. That's a great way to remember your younger days when you were a baseball player, and all those autographs of those players who are, you know, playing in the game today. You know, I think it's wonderful. Ronnie, you're to be congratulated. You and your grandson, you're giving him a terrific background in the love of the game of baseball at a very young age.
Well, yeah, and his dad has helped a lot too. So I give him a shout out too, Jeff.
Right. And there's one more.
Very nice.
There's one more, or a couple more things. Talking about autographs. So we were at a Twins game. It was just preseason, and they don't want to get hurt. They're not trying. They're just kind of playing to get ready for the real season, right? So they're all warming up in the left field line, and we're actually in Minnesota. The Twins are playing the Dodgers, and so everyone's signing baseballs. You know, they're throwing them up. And I look at Matt Kemp when he was with the Dodgers, and this wasn't this year. I was probably 6 or 7, and I said, Mr. Kemp, can I please get your autograph? And he looked at me, and he signed probably 25, 20 kids, and the one kid he didn't sign was me. So I looked at him. I said, Mr. Kemp, can I please get your autograph? And he looked at me and he said, no, sorry, kid. And he walks away.
Oh.
Whoa.
And I didn't get
that wasn't so. I think he's been a little bit better. I mean, he's a nice guy. I just don't get why he didn't do it. You're right. He should have.
Absolutely should have.
And then another thing about Puig that I wanted to mention is we were at, I think it was a Tigers-Dodger game, and I was bugging Puig. I'll admit it. I was bugging him, and I don't know if he knew or he didn't know it was me. And I think he was hurt. I don't know if he was playing. And he was in the dugout. We were in the first row right behind the Dodgers dugout. And I was bugging Puig, and I was just screaming at him, Puig, just all this stuff. And he said, he looked at me and he wouldn't say a word. You know, I don't know if he was focusing on the game or what he was doing. So I keep bugging him probably for about 30 minutes. So we're about to go up, and I don't know what we were doing, bathroom or something. So we're about to go up, and sure enough, he turns around and he says, kid, and he flips me a ball, or he was drinking a Gatorade cup, so he flips me the cup with the ball in it.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. That is something. Siggy, how come you're so shy?
What?
How
Isn't
come
he
you're
great?
so shy?
He's teasing you.
Maybe not. We got to do something to bring you out of your shell, young man.
Isn't he great?
He's
My
terrific.
boy. Yeah.
That is great. Wow.
Is your daddy there?
Beautiful Sunday morning.
Is your daddy there?
Yeah,
Is your daddy there?
Say hi. Yeah.
Sure.
How you guys doing?
Hi, this is my son Jeff.
Hey,
Hi,
nice to
This
meet
is
you,
Ralph
Jeff.
and George and David.
Nice
Hi.
to meet you guys as well. Enjoy listening to your podcast, and I'm enjoying listening to Sid, my father, talking with you guys. It's great.
Oh,
well,
wow.
we enjoy it, and we enjoy talking to your son, and now talking to you. It's great, and you certainly have a wonderful legacy with your dad and baseball, and we certainly enjoy having him on every week. And Ronnie has some great stories, and baseball is a big part of his life, obviously, just as it is ours. And so, we really look forward to it every Sunday. And now we've talked to two more generations of the family, so that's wonderful.
Well, thank
That's
you.
great.
Thank you for having him on.
Hey, Jeff, what's your first memory of baseball? What was your first game?
My first game was actually with my dad, my grandfather. I'm actually getting choked up here. It was actually Wrigley Field. The Dodgers were playing the Cubs. Must have been, Dad, how old was I? Probably 7 or 8 at the time.
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah, we probably drove down from Sheboygan and saw that first game with my dad and my grandfather. It was just a memory I'll never forget.
I didn't ever ask you, Ronnie, was your dad a baseball fan? I didn't know that.
Loved baseball. He loved baseball. Yeah. He got me involved in it early. Yeah, he did. He was quite a guy. He'd come home from the office. He was a lawyer, and he'd been working all day, and he was dog tired, but he'd always come out and play catch with me no matter what. He'd always, it was terrific. He was a great dad. And he was the one that wrote to Jackie Robinson and told him how much I admired him, and he didn't want to tell me he wrote because he didn't want me disappointed if he didn't respond. And he was quite a guy. I miss him a lot. He's been gone 32 years.
He's a great role model for you, so you could have not only him but Jackie and
his friendship
Rachel Robinson
with Jack Kennedy. Yeah, his friendship with Jack Kennedy. It was fun. He used to bring me along all the time. Just like
Ronnie, I wanted to ask you about that, the friendship with Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy himself was a very good athlete in the Kennedy family, and I've seen photographs of Jack Kennedy when he was very young in the dugout at Fenway Park. So I was just curious, do you recall any conversations that your dad and the future president ever had about baseball?
Oh yeah, they talked about baseball quite a bit. He was a big baseball fan. Of course, he was a Red Sox fan.
Right.
And my dad was the one that, when Jack was running for president, brought Jackie Robinson up to his suite to try and convince him to support him. And Jackie wouldn't do it. He was a Republican, and he wanted to support Nixon. And his feeling was, what does a rich kid from Massachusetts have any idea of the plight of the African Americans? But later on, Jack admitted to me that he was wrong, and he made a mistake because he saw that how progressive the Kennedys were as far as trying to get the civil rights bill off the floor and moving forward. So, and his help with Martin Luther King and Bobby was very, very much admired Jackie Robinson too.
The irony is that bill never got put forward until
Johnson came.
Tragically, is assassinated. Johnson got it through as a Southern Democrat who really amazing.
It really was.
Jeff,
he was not. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask Jeff if he had any political aspirations or training, or if anything was passed down politically in the family.
Well, I think, my family's always been very strong supporters of the Democratic Party. My dad, obviously, with the relationship, and my grandparents with the Kennedys, kind of always swung the pendulum that way. So hard not to. It's hard not to be a Dodger fan and a Democrat living in that house.
That's beautiful.
Yes, and I used to ride around in the car in the middle of the night, listening to the Dodgers on the radio. So funny.
Trying to get reception, in other words.
Yeah, exactly.
A
lot of static and a few base hits back then, but it was
clear channel.
Look back now, the time spent together was what it was all about.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's what baseball is about.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been terrific. Really enjoyable. Would you join us in the conversation, guys, about continuing the conversation about Ted Williams and the documentary that George was talking about earlier in the program?
Sure.
I haven't seen the documentary. I saw him play. I haven't seen the documentary.
Okay. Well,
if I can jump in here a second, Ronnie, if you get a chance, I think PBS will probably rebroadcast it, but it was on about a week ago, and it was an hour long, and it was really written, I think, for the most part, Ben Bradley, who wrote the book The Kid, it was featured in it along with Bob Costas and Claudia Williams and some players and some other talking heads when it comes to baseball. But in my opinion, I said it earlier with Ralph, there were certain aspects of Ted's life. I think it was, they talked about his early childhood with his mother being a Salvation Army worker and not a lot going on with a family relationship, and the fact that Ted was really, his ancestry was Mexican American. So, that was covered a little bit, but my opinion is that there were certain parts of Ted's life as a ball player, misunderstood. He did have a war with the press, no question about it. The Boston press had been, always after him, and I think the fans were certainly influenced a little bit by that. But Ted Williams was a man's man. He did a lot of things. I wrote an article for Christie's auction house. They did a baseball memorabilia auction a couple of years ago, and I wrote a piece for them called More Than Just Teddy Ball Game, and I really talked about Ted Williams as a person and the fact that he contributed so much over the years, his time and effort and energy in raising money for cancer awareness with the Jimmy Fund, and he never, ever wanted to be talked about. That was a private matter to him and had nothing to do with baseball. He didn't do it to attain any notoriety or celebrity. He did it because he felt for the kids, and this is what he wanted to do for them, and was instrumental in raising an awful lot of money for the Jimmy Fund in Boston.
That's great. That's great.
George, was there ever anything that comes to mind that was written about him that is pure bull, and you'd like to clear the record, if you would?
Well, I don't know whether it was clear bull. I think that there's been a lot of time. I just on Facebook this past couple hours, I was just looking at some things. There's a lot of very strong opinions. Some people say, Ted Williams was a no good guy. Others say he was a terrific guy. So I think it really polarized opinion as to him. I think what, people talk about, they say, well, he was interested in really, Ted Williams himself. And he wanted to be known as the greatest hitter, and he did. But on the other hand, some people have said, well, he wasn't a good teammate. And in my opinion, he was a very good teammate. He had the love of his players that played for him, that were teammates. I mean, Bobby Doerr and Dom DiMaggio, Johnny Pesky. I mean, toward the end of Ted's life, they wanted to go down to see him and be with him. and because of their friendship. And David Halberstam wrote about that in his book called The Teammates. So, I think that Ted was a very good teammate. He didn't necessarily able to convey his ability as a hitter to too many batters, although he did, was able to raise Eddie Brinkman's average about 50 or 60 points when he managed them in Washington. But Ted had such a unique ability. It's hard for a player of that caliber to actually tell players what they need to do when here, in fact, my dad used to say, hey, Ted Williams has the best hand-eye coordination I've ever seen, and his eyesight was 20/10. So, that really contributed to his greatness as a hitter and also to his greatness as a fly fisherman. He was, inducted into the Fly Fishing Hall of Fame as well as the Baseball Hall of Fame. So, that's
to say nothing about his war heroism.
Yeah, well, I didn't even want to get into that because he was a war hero. A lot of people, they say, well, Ted Williams was an instructor during World War II, which he was, but actually he was called back in the Korean conflict and faced combat, almost lost his life when he was hit by enemy fire. So, he was a person who really was a patriot. A lot of people say, well, he was a real John Wayne. John Wayne, had the John Wayne personality, but John Wayne never, really fought, where Ted Williams actually served his country in two different wars.
Right.
Well, David Hubler, you're a Yankee fan, and maybe you can talk to how close it was at one time. But there was a deal in place with Yawkey to
swap DiMaggio for Williams. I don't think that ever was anything. I think there was a lot of talk. DiMaggio was beloved from the time he was a rookie in the stadium. I think there would have been a mass riot had they traded him for Ted Williams, who, despite his greatness as a hitter and whatever you say about him as a player, I don't know, of course, but he would not have been that welcomed in New York, and especially in the Bronx, to play for the Yankees. So the idea was that in Fenway with the Green Monster, DiMaggio could hit a lot more home runs because it was closer in, and Williams, as a left-hand hitter, could do better at the stadium where they had that short porch in right field at 298 down the line. But I don't think there was anything to it. If you say one thing about the Yankee management, I mean, they were pretty astute guys. They were penny pinchers, yeah, but they knew baseball talent. I don't think they would have ever gone for that.
David, I agree with you. My opinion of that, and I'd heard that many times, but my opinion of that was somebody's pipe dream. I mean, they float those kind of things to get reactions and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it was ever seriously considered. This is my opinion. I don't know, but I would have to agree with you. I don't think that was ever going to happen. DiMaggio was an icon in New York, and Ted Williams was an icon in Boston.
Right.
And he was quite an icon. He was a tremendous hitter. I mean, to hit 400, over 400 in a season, that's outstanding. I mean, you've never seen
well, Ronnie, it is. It is. If you and your grandson, I mean, and your son, I mean, myself, I played, my dad. I mean, the gold standard for a hitter is to hit 300. If you hit 300, that is really doing a good job. And you're thought of as a great hitter. Here, Ted Williams hits over 400. And it's never been done since. And that was in 1941. That's 77 years ago.
Yeah. And he went, 6 for 8 in the doubleheader on the last day of the season?
He did. Joe Cruz said, I'll give you the day off. You hit 399, which had been rounded off to 400.
Yeah.
He said, no way. He said, I'm going to go out. And he goes out and he actually raises his average by going 6 for 8 in the doubleheader.
I'll tell you a very quick story about my feelings about Ted Williams. One of the great New York City games was stickball. You'd play with a broomstick and a Spalding, we played all the time. And when Ted Williams retired, his last hit was a home run. So we were playing stickball on my avenue there, and I hit one. It was the best shot I ever hit. I hit it over the roof of the far building, And I said, that's it. I'm retiring. Ed Williams went out on a home run. I'm doing the same thing. I've never picked up a stickball bat again in my life.
Hey, that's the way to do it, David. Go out a winner.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
Right. That's right. That's right.
I never even went up to the roof to collect the ball. I figured leave it there for posterity.
that pink Spalding might still be up there, David.
Yeah, it might still be.
Those things will outlive us all.
Right.
Ecologically, those plastic or rubber things will consume the world.
Oh, they were rubber balls. And I'll tell you, I don't know if George knows this, but a good stickball player was considered a two-sewer hitter. Absolutely. Means he could hit over 2 sewers down the street. So that was the sign of a really good stickball player.
Hey David, I never heard that phrase before. That's wonderful. Yep. That's terrific.
Yep. All right. Hey, listen, I've got a little fun exercise that we could play, and we can get to know Jeff a little bit this way. I know what you're a Yankee fan, David. George, you're a Washington Senator fan. I really don't know who you love these days. But what I'd like you guys to do, and we'll go around, is tell us your favorite team the year that you remember most, aside championship years. Like you could say the Brooklyn Dodgers of 55. Pick a different year, and we'll start with Jeff because he's the guest. Tell us which is your favorite baseball year, winning notwithstanding, and reasons why.
Well, let me think. What first came to mind until you said we're not winning the championship was 1988. Oh boy, I got to think. It's been so long since the Dodgers have, other than last year, gotten to a World Series, let alone won very far in the playoffs. But I think some of the later years when Lasorda was still coaching after the '88 season were still some of my most favorite. I think that the way he coached the team and the way the players were back then is so different than it is nowadays. Even before '88, in my younger years, these players stayed there pretty much their whole careers. And when I look at baseball now, it's changed so much. It's so much like a business, and I still love it. It's still my favorite sport, and I still enjoy watching it and all that stuff. But again, it's thinking back to when I was younger, I wish sometimes these players would be a little bit more focused on the team and not so much about themselves. But a lot of great memories, a lot of good years, and I love the Dodgers. I bleed Dodger blue.
Okay. Well, let's go to a little Yankee dark blue, and I'll ask David Hubler, what was his favorite team, championships notwithstanding?
Oh, that's hard to say because there were so many championship years. It's hard to pick them out. I guess. What want I say?
Well, there were 27 of them, so we'll make a special disposition. Change the question for you because you, the Yankee fan, blessed with so many championships. Which was your favorite?
Oh, okay. Well, that's easy, I think. The 61.
This is why we hate the Yankees. It's like you're rooting for U.S.
right? These old Dodger fans, they had a good team. They just didn't have that spark or whatever. Anyway, my worst year was 55. Because of the World Series. That was the only time I ever bet on the Yankees. The only time I ever bet on the Yankees in the World Series, and I never did it again. But I learned my lesson. But I think the one I thought was most enjoyable to me, not because they won, because there were so many things going on. The 61 season. The internal race between Maris and Mantle for home run leader. Right. There were so many things that went on then. And I remember one of the things I remember most about that year. I was up at the Yale Bowl in New Haven the football Giants were having a preseason exhibition game there, and I went up there. I don't even remember who they were playing now, but everyone in the stands, just about not everyone, but a good number of people were sitting there with their transistor radios listening to the Yankee game to see, if who would hit a home run that day, because it was September. It was getting close to the end of the season. So while the football game, which of course meant nothing, was going on down in the big bowl there, many of us, including myself, were far more interested in what was happening on the field between the Yankees and whomever they were playing that day. Mm-hmm. So it sort of traveled with you. You know what I mean? And that because there's so much riding on this. Although I think if I recall correctly, the Yankees were in no danger of losing the pennant, but still, there was a lot of things going on within the team. So that's the one I remember pretty well.
Well, that was a great team, and that was the year that I was like 16 or something. We went to Washington, a family thing to Washington, and got to see George's dad. And as George must have been there that day when the Yankees played the Senators, because you had a great article about warming up Eddie Brinkman.
Yeah, I did. I could have been there that day. It was opening day, and the fact is that I was taking infield and I was playing first base, and the Senators were working Eddie Brinkman out at shortstop because they hadn't signed him yet. And I've said many times, I mean, he had such a powerful arm. It was a cannon. I can just remember I played first base many, many years. I never felt the power of somebody's throw in catching it as I did from Eddie Brinkman. They would hit him deep in the hole at shortstop, and he'd pivot and he'd throw that ball. I mean, it was amazing how the strength of his arm. And I always remember that day. It was exciting for me. I had a uniform on. I'm working out in the same place where my dad played during his career. And here taking an infield practice, Eddie Brinkman, it was very special.
Day, and that's the day you had a run-in with the Secret Service.
Secret Service, absolutely. I was sitting in the dugout after the workout. I went in and showered and came back out, sitting in the dugout, and president comes in to throw out the first ball, and I'm sitting right next to him, right next to the presidential box in the dugout, and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by Secret Service. I said, "What the hell are you doing here?" I said, "I'm George Case's son. I'm just watching the ball game." They said, "Well, who's your father?" And I told them, and they had to, go out and get my dad off the first baseline and bring him in to identify me so I could sit there and, not be a threat to the president.
And that was in a day, when it was inconceivable that some harm would come to the president.
Oh, absolutely, David. You're right. I mean, they would have it. They would have it where the president and the vice president are sitting right next to one another in the presidential box, and Kennedy and the situation I'm talking about, and before with Roosevelt and Truman and Eisenhower.
Yeah, sure.
Tradition. In Washington, That's what you did when you threw it. The President of the United States opened the season in the American League by throwing out the first ball from the stands to a crowd of players on the field. That's the way it was done.
I've always said that if I were a professional comedian, I would never accept the job of performing before a group of Secret Servicemen, because they have no sense of humor whatsoever. These guys are so straight up the line. I mean, I was pushed out of when George Bush was vice president. I was leaving one of his offices there in the old executive office building. I mean, I was there. I was inside. It wasn't like, I was a stranger. And I opened the door to go out because I was leaving, and Bush came walking down the corridor with a couple of Secret Service guys, and they literally pushed me back inside the room.
Right.
It was like instinctive on their part. Boom.
Well, you're right, David. I mean, they're trained that way, and for me, it was such a, I'm an innocent kid. I'm 21 years old. I was a student at Rutgers, and I was down there because my dad was coaching, and I knew the players and the managers, and it was fun for me to be at Griffith Stadium. And I know the Secret Service had a job, and those guys surrounded me to make sure that I was not a threat. and they had to make sure that my dad, you know, what I told them was not a lie. They had to actually physically go out and get him off the line so he could come in and say, yeah, that's my boy, you know. so that I was okay. I was cleared by the Secret Service because I'm sure all their pregame planning for you know, Griffith Stadium and the president's appearance never included somebody sitting in the dugout in a suit next to the president of the United States.
Right. And the big debate in the Secret Service in those days was, who do we check out, George Case III or Lee Harvey Oswald?
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, you know what, Ralph, as it turned out, obviously a tragic circumstance, but, you know, not too long after that. But the irony of it, after it happened, you know, when I was part of watching, just like everybody else, was my personal recollection of what had happened to me, you know, 2 years prior.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll bet that crossed your mind.
It certainly
Sure
did.
it did. Sure it did. Yep.
Different time, a different world.
Yeah, it sure was.
Okay,
Sure was.
we're running late, but I want to thank Siggy. The differentiation of sound. Siggy, thank you for being here. This was one of my favorite episodes that I've ever been a part of.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it is certainly our pleasure. And Ronnie, can't say enough. Thank you for all you've done. And
thank you.
David, a great show as usual. And George Case III. Anything you want to end with, George, about Ted Williams that you haven't? Don't want to cut you short on anything.
Well, no, I really have enjoyed this. It just, when I hear Ronnie's grandson, it just brings back so many memories for me when I first started playing, and the enthusiasm that he has about baseball, the enthusiasm that I had having a catch with his dad in the backyard, Ronnie having a catch with his dad in the backyard. I had a catch so many times with my father in the backyard, and that's where I learned so much about and really came to love the game. Just being there and doing that, and I remember when I saw the film, Field of Dreams. My kids saw it, and they said to me, Dad, you're going to cry during that film at a certain scene, and that's absolutely what happened. I did, and when he wanted to have a catch with Joe Jackson, Kevin Costner, it brought back so many memories. And when I hear, Ronnie's grandson talking, that's what I listen to and remember the way it used to be for me. So I really had a good time. And Ronnie, thank you for bringing your grandson on. It was terrific.
You're welcome.
And your son, Jeff, thank you for being here.
Jeff.
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me. I leave you. I got one last thought. If we got a second here, I want to share with you guys.
Certainly.
So you guys were talking about Ted Williams and his batting average, and I don't know if it was George or David that said, but he was saying the old standard was, if you could get a hit 3 times, you bat 300, you're doing pretty well. And 6 coaching staff that he's been with this year, as long as me, I've always told these guys, hey, if you guys can get 3 hits, you guys are doing well. And just to give you the stats, to give you a little insight to what his team did this year, they had a team batting average of 396. Opponent's batting average was 206. They scored 500 runs and allowed only 141. They saw 5,450 pitches as batters and threw 39.21 as pitchers. They stole 146 bases and allowed 26 bases. So just gives you a little insight. He wanted to win it, but I keep telling him, man, you can't do much better than that.
That's right.
I tell you what, they are very impressive statistics. That was terrific.
They are
Thank
very
you.
impressive. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you.
All right.
This was fun.
Thank you. We all have in common the love of the great game of baseball, and that is so important in our lives. So thank you, gentlemen. This is, as I say, terrific. And if you're listening out there, I've got a special request. If you'd be good enough to box up some new or gently used children's books and take them to the Head Start program, it would be terrific. Kids need to read. They need to develop an imagination. They need to get their noses out of the computers and the devices. They need to be school ready, and reading helps kids that are most in need at the Head Start program change our world through children. And maybe you'll be good enough to do that. I'd appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Have a great week. We'll be back next week. And adios, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.